Hey guys, and welcome to my review for Game of Thrones Season 7, Episode 6, Beyond the Wall. Okay, so this was a very interesting episode. There was a lot about it I liked, but unfortunately, when it was over, I definitely felt some dissatisfaction with the way things played out, which I'll get into later. But for now, let's jump into my top 5 moments of the night, starting with the conversation between Littlefinger and Sansa, where she tells him she's worried about Arya, only for him to subtly continue his manipulations in a really smart way. When he sees that Sansa is clearly threatened by Arya, he mentions that Brienne of Tarth will protect her, but it appears like he's not trying to reassure her. Rather, he's just trying to mention the name so Sansa will make the connection in her own mind to eliminate Brienne as an obstacle if she decides to turn against Arya. And seeming to play right into his hands, Sansa then orders Brienne and Podrick to travel south, so she can't interfere with whatever she's planning next. I've heard some people mention that Sansa and Arya may be playing Littlefinger, or will get the better of him in the end. And that may happen, but I certainly don't get that impression. To me, it seems like Littlefinger is playing them both very well. Although since he told Sansa that he doesn't know where Arya got the letter, if that's revealed, he'll be caught in a lie, which may contribute to his ultimate downfall. At number 4, there was the undead bear attack against the companions, which took out 3 of their men. Watching the bear, which was then set on fire, tearing through them was amazing. Although I was really angry at the Hound for not helping Thoros. I get that he's still terrified of fire, but I was still disappointed he did nothing to help. I was also surprised Thoros survived, though it made sense he didn't make it through the night. At number 3, I chose the battle on the frozen lake. Watching the companions surrounded by enemies fighting for their lives looked great, and it was really interesting learning about the bond between individual White Walkers and the Whites they turn. As Beric pointed out, this means that targeting the Night King is probably the most important thing they can do, since he turned so much of their army. At number 2, I chose Daenerys flying in on Drogon, using all 3 dragons to rip apart the army of the dead. And while it was awesome seeing dragonfire rain down on the enemy, I was more impressed by the White Walkers, who were completely unfazed and seemed ready for the dragons, armed with ice spears that can take them down. At number 1, there was the final scene of the episode, when Viserion is pulled from the freezing lake and turned by the Night King. This left me with the impression that the next time we see the Night King, he may be mounted upon his new weapon, though I'm really curious about whether the dragon will still breathe fire. In my mind, I'm imagining he'll breathe a cold mist that freezes whatever it touches, similar to the dragon from the George R.R. Martin story The Ice Dragon, which I recommend to everyone who likes Game of Thrones. The story itself is not really canon to this world, but it does feel like the world, and you get a lot of cool insight into what an ice dragon might be like. Now, with all that out of the way, I do want to go over what I didn't really like about this episode as well. Personally, the reason I love Game of Thrones is because I feel it complements the A Song of Ice and Fire world, providing an amazing visual spectacle, awesome moments, and great insight into where the novels may be going. So I don't judge the show for small mistakes or things they might overlook. I'm very understanding about the monumental task they have in making this show, and since they started deviating from the book so much after about the 4th season, I know they don't have George R.R. Martin's brilliant work as a guideline anymore, so I don't fault them for simplifying and speeding things along. But even with all that, and the leeway I give to the show, this episode was not what I expected, and I really did feel a bit of disappointment. I was really expecting them to reference the story of the last hero much more than they did. I really thought Jon's mission was going to mirror what we know about the tale, losing all his companions and being left alone in the north to finish the mission. Instead, all the important characters survived, except for Thoros, who went out in his sleep. Everyone else who died was someone we didn't know, and this felt like a big letdown. There was also the convenient group of Whites, which all got destroyed, leaving only the one they needed to capture. The fact that the army of the dead waited the entire night without attacking the companions, even though the Night King later proved they can throw spears really well. Even if he was saving the ice spears for the dragons, couldn't the White Walkers just take some normal spears from their army and start throwing them at the defenders? There was also the last-minute rescue from Daenerys, before anyone important could die. The fact that Gendry was able to make it to the wall so quickly, send a raven south, and for Dany to fly all the way north in what appeared to be a single day and night. And the romantic connection at the end, which felt very forced to me. Even though them getting together makes perfect sense, it just seems so obvious. I was hoping they would slowly fall in love but die tragically before they could be together. But from the looks of things, their relationship will be much more conventional. I also found it hard to believe that Jon survived falling into the freezing water and then rode back in his cold, wet clothes. And then there were some strange things that didn't bother me, like when Benjen rescued Jon. Even though it kind of came out of nowhere, it does make sense to me that Benjen would have been tracking the White Walkers, and probably saw Jon's party but couldn't come to them sooner because they were surrounded. So he likely waited for the perfect opportunity to jump in, and I guess both of them on the horse would have made it too slow to reach the wall in time. I also did not have a problem with Jon taking Dany as his queen. Although I'm personally not a fan of the Targaryens, it is Jon's decision to make. My biggest problem was that the Targaryens Targaryens force themselves on people who don't want them. But if Jon can convince the Northern Lords to have her as their queen, her legitimacy to me is no longer relevant. If they want her as queen, then there's not much more to be discussed. Now, for the best kill of the night, obviously that goes to the Night King for spearing Viserion and collapsing him to the ground. Although the Night King did appear to have a shot at taking out Drogon, I guess it makes sense that he targeted the dragon that was actively destroying his army at that moment, and seeing the dragon go down, literally in flames, was pretty amazing. For the best line of the night, there was when Jon offered to return Longclaw to the Mormont family, only for Jorah to say, "He gave it to you. I brought shame onto my house. I forfeited the right to claim this sword. It's yours. May it serve you well, and your children after you." To me, this sounds like Jorah's unofficial endorsement of Jon's potential relationship with Daenerys. In my mind, Jorah not only wants Jon to have the sword, but understands Jon might marry Dany, and so Dany's children will also have the sword. I may be reading too much into this since Dany believes she can't have any more children, but this was the impression I got from the conversation. I was really expecting to give this episode a 10 or a 9.5, but after watching it, I just didn't feel like it lived up to what I was expecting. I still liked the episode a lot for its amazing moments and incredible visuals, especially with how realistic those dragons now look. And so overall, I gave the episode an 8.5 out of 10. It appears that many episodes this season have divided fan opinion, but what did you guys think? Did you like the episode, or were there too many problems for you to enjoy it? Be sure to let me know in the comments below, and be sure to watch the episode recap already available. I'll see you guys next week for the final episode of Season 7. A special thanks to all those who contribute to Civilization X, like Sir Darren of House Ashford, Sir Rice of the Dreadfort, and Arhael the Silent Blade. If you'd like to help the channel with a monthly donation, click on the Patreon link, and please be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to see more.